If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns find themselves in yet another turbulent chapter of what has already been a roller coaster season, and it feels like this is becoming a recurring theme for the franchise. Just when fans were beginning to feel a glimmer of optimism after a solid win against the Green Bay Packers, the celebrations quickly turned sour with the devastating injury to left tackle Dawg Jones. It wasn't just a minor setback either. Jones suffered a torn lateral collateral ligament and a hamstring avulsion, injuries severe enough to end his 2025 season before it even had the chance to get rolling. For a Browns team already plagued with inconsistency and health concerns, losing one of their cornerstone pieces on the offensive line could not have come at a worse time. This is a loss that doesn't just affect the trenches. It shakes the very foundation of the Browns' offensive identity. The play itself was tough to watch. As Jones went down, the crowd fell silent, knowing instinctively that this wasn't just your standard ankle sprain or something he could walk off. When a player that size, at that position, crumbles in a heap and needs help to leave the field, the ripple effect on a roster can be seismic. The blindside protector is arguably the second most important position on the offense, only behind quarterback, and the Browns are now left scrambling to figure out who can step into that role for the rest of the season. Cornelius Lucas filled in after the injury, and while Lucas is a seasoned veteran with plenty of experience, there's a huge difference between a steady backup and someone you can trust to neutralize elite edge rushers week in and week out. It's one thing to get by for a quarter or even a single game. It's another thing to rely on a fill-in for 3/4 of an NFL season. The Browns front office knows this better than anyone, which is why reports are surfacing that Cleveland is actively exploring the trade market for a left tackle. According to Mary Kay Cabot, the Browns are sniffing around potential deals with struggling teams who might be willing to part ways with proven linemen in exchange for draft picks or future assets. The Giants, Dolphins, and Titans are all being floated as possible trade partners. Among those options, one intriguing name is Giants tackle Jermaine Illuminor. The Giants' season is spiraling downward, and with their front office unsure of how to balance short-term competitiveness with long-term roster planning, Illuminor could be a piece that's available for the right price. For Cleveland, acquiring a player like him would provide immediate stability, even if it's not a long-term solution. What makes this situation even trickier for the Browns is that their offensive line wasn't exactly performing at an elite level even before Jones went down. The numbers are concerning, and they paint a picture of a unit that has been average in pass protection and downright poor in the run game. According to Pro Football Focus, Cleveland's line has allowed pressure on 32.8% of dropbacks, ranking them 22nd in the NFL. Their pass blocking grade of 59.5 is 27th in the league, while their run blocking grade is an abysmal 50.2, placing them 30th out of 32 teams. For a team that has prided itself in recent years on a physical, run-heavy identity with backs like Nick Chubb pounding defenses into submission, those kinds of numbers are unacceptable. Now, with injuries stacking up, there's little reason to believe those grades will improve without external help. The Browns anticipated some of these issues during the offseason when they made a concerted effort to bring in reinforcements for their offensive line. With the average age of the unit climbing over 28, durability was always going to be a concern. Still, the franchise hoped that depth signings and smart roster management would buy them enough time to get through the grind of a 17-game season. That plan has been tested early, and it's safe to say it's not holding up. Losing a key starter so early forces general manager Andrew Berry into a tough spot. Does he mortgage future draft picks to stay competitive in 2025, or does he ride this out, accept the setbacks, and prepare to rebuild in the offseason? The decision will define not just this season, but potentially the next few years of the franchise. Adding to the complexity is the fact that tackle Jack Conklin is also set to miss his third straight game. Suddenly, the Browns are staring down the possibility of fielding an offensive line that looks patched together rather than anchored by veterans and stalwarts. This doesn't just impact the passing game, where keeping the quarterback upright is paramount. It also undermines their ability to establish the run, control time of possession, and wear down opposing defenses. If Cleveland has any hope of maintaining momentum in the playoff race, They absolutely must address this problem before it snowballs into something that derails their season entirely. The looming trade deadline on November 4th at 4 p.m. now takes on even greater significance. For Browns fans, all eyes will be glued to the rumor mill, waiting to see if their front office pulls the trigger on a deal to bring in reinforcements. This is a franchise that has been teetering on the edge of contention for years, often undone by untimely injuries, questionable roster moves, or simply bad luck. There's a growing sense that this season could go either way, spiral into disappointment, or turn into a story of resilience, depending on how aggressively the team acts in the coming weeks. What's fascinating about this moment is the duality of the Browns' potential approach. On one hand, they could go out and be buyers at the deadline, swinging a trade that signals to the locker room and the fan base that they believe in this roster and want to compete right now. That kind of move can energize a team and create momentum when it's needed most. On the other hand, if the injuries continue to pile up and the offensive line remains a liability, the front office might decide that selling assets and stockpiling for the future is the smarter play. It's the eternal balancing act that every team has to navigate: short-term success versus long-term sustainability. What cannot be overstated is how crucial the offensive line is to everything Cleveland wants to do. Without a functional line, even the most talented quarterback will struggle, and the run game will never find its rhythm. For the Browns, who already face one of the tougher schedules in the league, this is not a problem they can afford to ignore. Each week that passes without a viable solution puts them further behind in the standings and chips away at their chances of making noise in the AFC. Ultimately, this situation is about more than just DeJuan Jones' injury. It's about the Browns' identity as a team and their willingness to adapt when adversity strikes. It's about whether this front office, which has been lauded for its analytical approach and long-term vision, can also be flexible and aggressive when the circumstances demand it. It's about whether this season becomes another footnote in the long history of what could have been for Cleveland, or whether it becomes the year they finally prove that they can overcome obstacles and build something lasting. The answer will come in the weeks ahead, as the trade deadline approaches and the Browns are forced to show their cards. One thing is certain: the clock is ticking, and every decision from here on out will shape the fate of their 2025 campaign. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. The air around Cleveland has been heavy these past few days, and not because of the weather. Rumors have been spreading like wildfire, whispers turning into full-blown reports, and now fans everywhere are holding their breath as one of the biggest stars in the NFL, one of the most dominant defensive forces of this era, has reportedly shaken the very foundation of the Browns organization. Myles Garrett, the heart and soul of Cleveland's defense, the player who has defined their identity over the past several years, has allegedly demanded a trade after what insiders are describing as an explosive confrontation with the Browns front office. This isn't just another off-season rumor meant to stir the pot. The tone surrounding this story feels different. It feels heavier, and if true, it could reshape not only the Browns but the balance of power across the league. The story begins with growing tension that apparently had been brewing behind the scenes for quite some time. Garrett, known for his intensity on the field and his straightforward nature off of it, has always been the kind of player who commands respect. He's the kind of athlete who makes quarterbacks think twice, who forces coaches to scheme entire game plans around neutralizing him, and who gives teammates the confidence that no matter the situation, the defense has a shot as long as he's on the field. Yet, despite his dominance and his status as a cornerstone, the relationship between him and the Browns management reportedly began to sour. Some suggest it was a disagreement over the direction of the franchise. Others point to frustrations about how decisions have been made without consulting leaders in the locker room. And still others hint at personal slights that cut deeper than any of us could see from the outside. Whatever the case, the tension finally erupted into a heated exchange that sources are describing as nothing short of volatile. During this alleged confrontation, Garrett is said to have voiced his frustration in no uncertain terms. For years, fans and analysts alike have been wondering whether the Browns truly know how to maximize the talent they have, and Garrett apparently shares that concern. He's not just frustrated about losing seasons or wasted opportunities. This is about accountability, about feeling undervalued despite being the face of the defense, and about being left out of conversations where his voice should matter most. Reports suggest that Garrett felt disrespected by the tone and dismissiveness of certain members of the front office, and that in the heat of the moment, words were exchanged that cannot easily be taken back. By the end of that confrontation, Garrett had reportedly drawn a line in the sand and demanded a trade, sending shockwaves through the entire organization. Now, think about what that means for the Browns. Losing Myles Garrett isn't just about losing sacks and pressure. It's about losing the heartbeat of the defense, the player who has been both feared and admired around the league. It's about losing a leader in the locker room, someone who commands attention not just because of his play, but because of his presence. Garrett isn't just another player. He is the kind of talent teams dream of building around. If he truly wants out, the Browns could be facing a massive crisis of identity, one that might take years to recover from. Fans who have endured decades of disappointment were finally beginning to feel like this team had the pieces to compete consistently. The defense had its anchor, the offense was being built up with big names, and there was a sense of cautious optimism. All of that now feels like it's hanging by a thread. For Garrett, the demand for a trade raises all sorts of possibilities. Teams across the league would immediately line up for his services, and you can bet general managers are already on the phone, quietly probing to see if Cleveland might be forced to make a deal. Imagine Garrett in a different uniform, lining up for a contender, wreaking havoc in a playoff push, turning already strong defenses into unstoppable forces. The thought alone is enough to make Browns fans sick to their stomachs, but it's a very real possibility. Whether it's a big market team desperate for a defensive superstar or a contender looking for the final piece to push them over the top, Garrett's name alone would send shockwaves through any fan base. His presence changes everything, and that's why this rumor has spread so quickly and hit so hard. But we also have to talk about how rare this situation is. Players of Garrett's caliber don't just demand trades out of nowhere. Usually, franchises do everything in their power to keep them happy, to make sure they feel respected, and to build around them. For things to have gotten this bad, for the relationship to have fractured so deeply, it suggests that the issues between Garrett and the Browns' leadership aren't just surface-level disagreements. This feels personal. This feels like a breaking point that's been coming for a while, and now it's boiling over in the public eye. That's what makes this rumor feel so different from the usual off-season chatter. There's a weight to it, a sense that we're witnessing something big, something that could lead to a seismic shift. Fans have already started reacting online, and the reactions range from heartbreak to outrage. Some can't believe the organization would let things get to this point, questioning how management could alienate the best player on the roster. Others are angry at Garrett, insisting that no single player is bigger than the team, and that if he doesn't want to be in Cleveland, then he should be shipped out. And then there are those who are simply stunned, watching in disbelief as one of the brightest stars in the league potentially walks away from the team that drafted him. Social media is flooded with speculation, trade scenarios, and emotional pleas for cooler heads to prevail. Everyone has an opinion, but one thing is clear. This story has struck a nerve. It's worth considering what this could mean for Garrett's legacy as well. Up until now, he's been seen as the face of the Browns' defensive renaissance, a generational talent who could go down as one of the all-time greats in Cleveland history. But if he forces his way out, if he leaves in anger and frustration, it changes the narrative. Suddenly, instead of being remembered as the cornerstone of a rebuild, he becomes another superstar who walked away, another what if in a city that has had more than its share of heartbreak. At the same time, if he goes somewhere else and wins, if he joins a contender and lifts a Lombardi trophy, he cements himself as one of the most impactful players of his generation. It's a delicate balance, and Garrett surely knows the weight of this decision. The Browns now face an impossible situation. Do they try to repair the relationship, hoping that cooler heads can prevail and that Garrett might reconsider if changes are made? Do they call his bluff, refusing to trade him and forcing him to play out his contract, risking an even bigger fallout in the process? Or do they bite the bullet and begin fielding offers, knowing that while they'll never get equal value for a player of his caliber, they might at least get enough to soften the blow? None of these options are easy, and every choice carries consequences that could define the franchise for years to come. This isn't just about one player and one disagreement. This is about the very future of the Cleveland Browns. As for Garrett himself, the ball is in his court. He's already made his feelings known, at least according to these reports, and now the world is watching to see what his next move will be. Will he double down on his demand and force the issue? Will he soften his stance if the team shows a willingness to meet him halfway? Or will the damage prove to be too deep, the bridge already burned beyond repair? One thing is certain. Myles Garrett has the power to change the NFL landscape with this decision, and however this plays out, it will be remembered as a turning point not just for him, but for the league as a whole. For now, the Browns fan base is left in limbo, clinging to hope while bracing for heartbreak. They've been here before, watching stars slip away, watching opportunities vanish, watching promise turn into disappointment. But this feels different, because this time, it's not about losing a player to free agency or bad luck. This is about losing the trust and respect of the very player who was supposed to symbolize the turnaround, the guy who made fans believe again. If the rumors are true, if Garrett really has demanded a trade, then the Browns may once again find themselves starting over, searching for a new identity in the shadow of what could have been. And for fans, that's a nightmare they thought they had finally left behind. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!